welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Things Like a Man.
Okay.
This book, it's all about, understanding his perspective on men, women, and relationships. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're, looking for that long-term commitment, like something real, something that's going to last. I think there's a lot we can learn from what Steve Harvey has to say.
Definitely.
Now, you might be thinking, isn't this book a bit dated?
Right.
I mean, it came out a while ago, right?
It did, yeah.
Even if some of those cultural references feel a little old school, I think Harvey's insights into like the male perspective can still offer some surprising aha moments for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think what's interesting is how he really seems to tap into those, those often unspoken needs and desires that men have.
Right.
Which can sometimes lead to like these big misunderstandings in relationships. Yeah, totally. And he's not afraid to like just dive right in.
No.
He comes out and says, men are driven by three core needs: support, loyalty, and sex.
The three S's.
The three S's, right. And he even uses this, I thought this was pretty interesting. He uses this analogy of a man's job.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, it takes like 90 days to earn those benefits.
Oh, I see.
Like health insurance, dental, the whole package.
Right.
And to Harvey, that's how men see commitment in a relationship.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I need to see she's worth investing in before I like go all in.
I see.
It's a pretty bold comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to get your thoughts on this whole 90-day rule thing. Is it totally outdated, or does it like hold some weight even today?
I find it fascinating because I think it does tap into like a psychological truth about us as humans.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. There's a reason why companies use probationary periods.
Oh, totally.
It's like it's a time to assess if someone is a good fit, They want to see how you perform. Mm-hmm. And Harvey might be a bit blunt, but he's essentially saying both men and women should be evaluating each other's character and commitment early on. He even suggests specific actions women can take during this time to like really assess a guy. It's like going to church together, meeting families, seeing how he reacts under pressure. It's not just like waiting around. It's about like active observation.
Interesting. So it's like you're in those early stages. What are some red flags you should be looking for, according to Harvey?
Well, one thing he emphasizes is a man's willingness to like profess his commitment to you publicly.
Okay.
It's not just about like grand gestures.
Right.
It's those everyday ways he shows he's proud to be with you.
Okay. So like, what does that look like?
Does he introduce you as his girlfriend? Does he, include you in his life, not just his like weekend plans?
Okay.
Harvey argues that a man who's serious, like he'll want the world to know you're together.
Right. So it's about moving beyond the friend zone, right?
Right. Exactly.
He's saying like actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about like those romantic gestures.
Right.
It's about how he shows up in like practical ways too.
Right. Everyday things.
Yeah. Remember that hilarious story he tells about his friend and the pineapple juice?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
That one is perfect.
That perfectly illustrates Harvey's point about like a man's need to provide.
Yeah.
And it's not always about money, right?
Right.
In this case, the guy was, struggling financially. Mm-hmm. And his girlfriend made a comment about him, buying pineapple juice, which he loved.
Yeah.
But to him, it felt like, emasculation, like a blow to his pride as a provider.
Right. Like she didn't trust that he, could manage his finances.
Exactly. And it might seem like, a small thing.
Yeah.
But it really represented a much deeper issue in their dynamic. So it really highlights how, even seemingly insignificant actions can like chip away at a man's sense of worth, especially when it comes to like feeling like he's providing and taking care of his partner.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Harvey's saying it's crucial for women to understand this need men have to feel like they're contributing to the relationship.
Absolutely. And it's not about women needing to be helpless or financially dependent.
Right.
It's about recognizing this like this innate desire men have to step up and be the protector, to be the problem solver, the one who takes charge. Marvey even uses this image of like a man as a knight in shining armor, ready to, defend his lady from any threat.
I love that.
He tells this funny story about his wife scuba diving in Maui and how he was like freaking out on the shore, ready to jump in and save her, even though he can't swim.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so we have profess and provide. What about that third S?
Yes. That would be sex. Which, it's a bit more straightforward.
Right.
Harvey argues that for men, sex is not just a physical act. It's deeply intertwined with their sense of masculinity and validation. He believes women have the power to either fulfill this need in a healthy way or leave men feeling inadequate and seeking it elsewhere.
That's a pretty loaded topic, and we'll definitely want to unpack that further.
For sure.
But before we go there, let's talk about another core concept Harvey emphasizes. Men always have a plan. It might not be written down, but they have an idea of where they're going in life.
It's like that internal GPS, navigating them toward their goals.
So what does he say women should do with this information?
He urges women to understand this like plan mentality and, more importantly, to evaluate it early on. He even provides 5 key questions women should ask to like decode a man's plan. Things like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay.
What are your financial goals? What are your dreams? Those big picture questions. Mm-hmm. Harvey believes if a man is serious about you, he'll, happily share his vision for the future and how you fit into it.
Right. It's like, show me your blueprint and let's see if our structures are compatible.
Exactly.
He tells that story, oh my gosh, about, this celebrity surrounded by all these beautiful women.
Oh, yeah.
And how none of them ever asked him about his plans. They were just like enjoying the perks.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale.
Right. But absolutely.
Like Harvey is suggesting that sometimes, we get so caught up in the, superficial aspects of a relationship that we forget to ask those deeper questions, the ones that really reveal a man's true intentions.
Right.
Like, is he looking for something meaningful? Or is this just, a fling?
Right.
So it's not just about waiting for him to like unveil his grand plan.
Sure.
It's about, actively engaging in that conversation, understanding his ambitions and seeing if, your paths align. And this brings us to one of Harvey's most talked about concepts, the keepers versus sportsfish analogy.
Oh, yes, the infamous categorization.
It's definitely sparked a lot of conversation. But before we dive into that,
okay,
I think maybe it's a good time to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dissect this potentially controversial concept.
That's good. So we were talking about Steve Harvey's keepers versus sportsfish analogy.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like he's putting women into boxes, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, you have the keeper, who he describes as marriage material, someone who like commands respect, knows her worth, has her life together.
Right.
Then there's the sportsfish, who he paints as more focused on appearances, easily swayed, maybe not as discerning in her choices. It's provocative for sure.
Yeah, definitely a simplification.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's crucial to acknowledge the potential harm in like categorizing people this way. Every woman is unique.
Right.
And reducing them to like these labels can perpetuate stereotypes and ignore individual nuances. But I do think there's a kernel of truth in what Harvey is getting at, even if his delivery is, a bit rough around the edges.
Right. Like beneath the labels, he's essentially advocating for women to like be intentional.
Yes.
To prioritize self-respect and long-term compatibility over, fleeting attraction or superficial validation. Yeah. It's about being like mindful of the energy you're putting out and the type of partner you're attracting.
Exactly. And you see this like play out in the examples he gives. He describes a keeper as someone who can like hold her own in any situation, whether it's, a PTA meeting, a boardroom, or a fancy dinner party.
Oh, yeah.
She's comfortable in her own skin, intelligent, and, carries herself with a certain grace. He even uses this scenario of like a woman at the gym approached by like a good-looking guy. Okay. Instead of, immediately jumping at the attention.
Right.
She observes him, sets a standard for how she expects to be treated, and doesn't give in easily.
Right. It's about being like in control of the situation, knowing what you want and not letting yourself be swept off your feet by charm alone.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm curious, do you think this aligns with the idea of like female power that Harvey talks about?
Absolutely. He believes women hold like a tremendous amount of power in relationships.
Okay.
It's linked to their ability to choose.
Okay.
He argues that men are like inherently driven to pursue, and by setting standards, not giving in easily, a woman becomes like the ultimate prize.
I see.
Think back to that 90-day rule. It's essentially a woman exerting her power of choice, saying, I'm not going to give myself away to just anyone. You need to earn it.
Right. It's like flipping the script on traditional dating dynamics.
Yeah, totally.
Instead of waiting for the man to lead, she's like taking charge, setting the pace, and making him work for her attention. Do you think this approach could backfire, though?
It certainly requires a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Taken too far, it can, become manipulative or create unnecessary games.
Right.
But I think Harvey's intention is to empower women to be confident, discerning, and not settle for less than they deserve. He even uses his own relationship with Marjorie as an example. He wasn't fully committed early on, but it was her willingness to walk away.
Okay.
Her refusal to settle for crumbs that, made him realize her worth.
It's like she held up a mirror, showing him what he was about to lose if he didn't step up.
Yeah.
Speaking of communication, Harvey has a pretty strong opinion on the phrase, "we need to talk."
Oh, yeah.
He practically says it's like the kiss of death in a relationship.
Yeah.
Why is he so against those 4 little words?
Well, Hardy's main argument is that, it triggers a man's, fight or flight response. Remember how we talked about men being fixers?
Right.
Well, when they hear, "we need to talk," their brains immediately go into, problem-solving mode.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what they did wrong and how to fix it. But often, women just want to, vent, share their feelings, or seek emotional support.
Right.
Which can lead to a communication clash.
Yeah, it's like speaking 2 different languages.
Absolutely.
He even gives that hilarious example of, a woman upset about a coworker wearing the same blouse as her.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
To her, it's about the emotional experience, the annoyance of the situation.
Yeah.
But the man just hears a problem with a simple solution.
Yeah.
Don't wear the blouse again. Case closed.
Exactly. He suggests that instead of the dreaded phrase, women try something like, "honey, nothing's wrong. I just need to tell someone something." It sets a more relaxed tone.
Right.
And let the man know she's not necessarily looking for him to fix anything. It's about understanding those inherent communication differences between men and women.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if this advice applies beyond romantic relationships too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like a master class in effective communication for any situation.
Absolutely.
But going back to the nuances of male psychology, Harvey believes a man's relationship with his mother has a huge impact on his romantic relationships.
Oh, big time. He calls the mother a man's first love and argues that she, sets the initial standards for how he'll treat women in the future. He even uses this heartbreaking strawberry letter from a woman whose husband constantly puts his mother's needs above hers and their families.
Oh, wow.
The title of the letter is "Did I Marry a Man or a Boy?" which perfectly encapsulates the dilemma.
Ouch. That's a tough one. What's Harvey's take on this whole mama's boy situation?
Well, he puts the responsibilities squarely on the woman, saying, and I quote, "It's your fault."
Wait, what? He's blaming the woman for the man's close relationship with his mother.
His point is that the woman in this scenario never set clear boundaries or expectations with her husband regarding his relationship with his mother. She allowed, his mother's rules and demands to take precedence over her own needs and those of their family.
So it's about establishing those boundaries early on, making it clear that, while you respect his relationship with his mother,
right,
you and your family come first. It's about creating a healthy separation.
Right, precisely. Harvey believes a real man, a mature man, understands this need for independence and, won't need his mother to constantly validate him or cater to him.
Right.
He'll be secure in his role as a husband and partner, respecting his mother, but also prioritizing his own family.
Right. It's like transitioning from mama's boy to man of the house.
Exactly.
But this raises a question. What if the man is resistant to those boundaries?
Yeah.
What if he's so entangled with his mother that he can't see her influence clearly? Where do you go from there?
That's where things can get tricky. And honestly, Harvard didn't offer much guidance on like navigating those more complex family dynamics.
Okay.
But I think his core message still applies. It's crucial for women to be aware of this potential influence and, to establish clear expectations from the start.
It's like, here are my non-negotiables when it comes to family dynamics. Can you live with that?
Exactly.
Now, let's get into a topic that's often shrouded in like mystery and misunderstanding.
Okay.
Men and cheating. Harvey delves into this, providing several reasons why men might stray, emphasizing that it's not always about like a lack of love or a desire to hurt their partner.
Right.
Yeah. And one of his most, this is interesting, one of his most intriguing points is the emotional disconnect men can sometimes have from sex.
Oh, yeah. He argues that men can compartmentalize, like they can engage in a physical act without necessarily having, emotional attachment to the person they're with.
Okay.
He even uses the example of like a high-powered couple with demanding careers. Right.
Where the woman is frequently away.
Oh, okay.
And while the man might love and respect his wife, his need for physical intimacy might lead him to seek it elsewhere, if it's not being fulfilled in the relationship.
It's a controversial perspective, for sure. I mean, can men really separate sex from emotions that cleanly? And even if they can, does that, justify infidelity?
Yeah, that's where things get ethically murky.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that Harvey, while presenting this perspective, is not condoning cheating.
Okay.
He acknowledges the pain and betrayal it causes.
Right.
But he's trying to shed light on the complexities of male psychology. And I think this particular insight, whether you agree with it or not, forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about human desire and the different ways men and women experience intimacy.
It's like he's saying, here's a potential pitfall, a danger zone, and I'm not sugarcoating it.
Right, exactly. It's up to each individual to decide how they, interpret that information and what boundaries they want to establish in their own relationships. But what I find interesting is that he doesn't stop there. He also delves into other reasons for infidelity, like a man's search for purpose and identity.
Right. He suggests that when a man is still, figuring out who he is, what he wants to do with his life, he might be less inclined to fully commit to one woman. It ties back to that idea of a man's plan. If he hasn't solidified his own path, he might not be ready to fully integrate someone else into it.
It's like, I'm still under construction.
Yeah.
Enter at your own risk.
Exactly.
He tells this story about a friend who seemingly had it all.
Oh, yeah.
Successful career, beautiful family, financial security, but still had an affair.
Wow.
And the reason, he wasn't truly happy. He hadn't prioritized his family the way he should have. And that lack of fulfillment led him astray.
It's a reminder that even men who seem to have, everything figured out on the outside might be grappling with inner turmoil.
Right.
And those unresolved conflicts can sometimes manifest in destructive ways.
Yeah.
Like infidelity.
It's almost like a cry for help, a misguided attempt to fill a void.
Yeah.
It's a sobering reminder that relationships require constant work, attention, and a willingness to address those underlying needs and desires before they lead us down a dark path.
Yeah.
But amidst all these potential pitfalls and complexities, Harvey offers a glimmer of hope. He believes that ultimately women hold the power to create the kind of relationships they desire.
Right. This is where he circles back to that idea of female power, which is arguably his most controversial yet intriguing assertion.
It's definitely sparked a lot of debate. But before we dive into that, I think maybe it's a good time to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and unpack this concept of female power and how it might apply to you and your own relationship journey. So we're back and ready to tackle what might be Steve Harvey's most controversial yet intriguing claim. Women hold the ultimate power in relationships. What do you think?
It's definitely a statement that's gotten a lot of attention, both positive and negative. But before we jump to conclusions, I think it's important to understand what he actually means by this.
Right, yeah. It's not about women, dominating or controlling men. It's not about a power struggle.
Right, exactly. Harvey's point is that women have the inherent ability to choose who they allow into their lives, to set the standards for how they'll be treated, and ultimately to decide the fate of a relationship. He believes men are wired to pursue, to prove themselves.
Okay.
And in a way that makes the woman who holds her ground, who doesn't give in easily, the ultimate prize.
it's almost like she becomes this like irresistible force because she's not, readily available. She's discerning, she has standards, and that makes her all the more desirable. Like he has to work for it.
Exactly. Think about that 90-day rule we discussed earlier. It's like a prime example of a woman exerting her power of choice. It's her saying, I'm worth the wait, I'm worth getting to know, and I'm not going to rush into anything just because you're interested.
She's setting the pace, creating this sense of mystery and intrigue, and the man has to, rise to the occasion if he wants to be with her. But this whole concept can be tricky to navigate, right?
Right.
How do you wield this power without, turning it into a game or a manipulation tactic?
That's the key. Harvey's not advocating for, manipulation or playing hard to get. He's talking about a deeper sense of self-worth, a confidence that radiates from within. It's about knowing what you deserve and not settling for anything less. It's about being authentic, being true to yourself, and setting those boundaries from the start.
So it's like having a strong sense of self, a solid foundation, and then inviting someone into your world rather than molding yourself to fit into theirs.
But let's be honest, not all men are going to be thrilled with this approach. Some might feel threatened, intimidated, or even emasculated by a woman who, knows what she wants and isn't afraid to ask for it. So what does Harvey say to those men?
His message is pretty clear. If a man is truly secure in his masculinity, he won't be intimidated by a strong, independent woman. He'll welcome it. He'll see her strength as a compliment to his own, not a challenge to it.
Because ultimately, a healthy relationship is about two individuals coming together, each with their own strengths and vulnerabilities, and creating something even stronger together. It's not about one person having all the power or calling all the shots.
Exactly. And I think that's what Harvey's ultimately getting at. He's challenging both men and women to, step into their own power, to communicate their needs and expectations clearly, and to create relationships built on mutual respect, admiration, and a willingness to grow together.
Like a dance.
There's a give and take, a push and pull. And when both partners are in sync, it creates this beautiful harmony.
Yeah.
But sometimes, even with the best intentions, relationships hit a roadblock. And one of the things Harvey talks about that can really derail a relationship is the lack of a shared vision.
Yeah, he's a big believer in having a plan, not just as individuals, but as a couple. And he encourages couples to have those tough conversations early on.
Okay.
To talk about their goals, their dreams, their fears, and to make sure their paths are aligned.
It's like checking the map before you embark on a road trip together.
Exactly.
You want to make sure you're both headed in the same direction, or at least willing to navigate those detours and unexpected turns together.
Exactly. He even suggests creating a relationship contract.
Okay.
Where you outline your non-negotiables, your deal breakers, and the things you're willing to compromise on. It's not about being rigid or controlling, but about having those, open and honest conversations that lay the foundation for a strong and lasting partnership.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Steve Harvey's relationship advice, I think the most important question for you to consider is this. Do you agree with his assertion that women hold the ultimate power in relationships? And if so, how can you use this power not to manipulate or control, but to create the fulfilling, loving relationship you deserve? It's about understanding your worth, setting those boundaries, communicating your needs, and choosing a partner who not only respects those choices, but also celebrates your strength and independence.
It's about being the architect of your own love story.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of Steve Harvey's relationship advice, and we encourage you to continue the conversation, to reflect on these ideas, and to apply them to your own life in a way that feels authentic and empowering. Until next time, happy diving.